Hi everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in our current climate, maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. Our guest this week is Sasha Grumman, Top Chef Season 18 contestant, owner of Sashas Focaccia, and new vendor at the Rice Village Farmers Market in Houston, Texas. Hey everyone, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I'm a longtime Farmers Market manager, Vendor 101 co-teacher, and education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active Farmers Market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, and the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, marketing director for Farmers Market Pros. And I have a new title in my outline today.
That's right.
Membership manager for Farmers Market Pros membership program, which we'll talk more about soon.
We'll talk about that soon. Somebody has to manage all the logistics of that.
That's right.
Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is supported by Food Business Success. Reaching your financial goals as a food maker requires not just a great product, but also an entrepreneur's mindset and retail industry expertise. Find the help you need at foodbusinesssuccess.com or click their logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. Today we're so excited to be speaking with Sasha Grumman, Top Chef Season 18 contestant, owner of Sashas Focaccia, and new vendor at the Rice Village Farmers Market in Houston, Texas, about moving from restaurants to farmers markets and developing a new food brand. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you. Yes, there's some Top Chef fangirls in the
Big
podcast.
Top Chef fangirls. Actually, it's your cohort that's brought me back to Top Chef. I was avid watcher for the first 5 or 6 seasons, dropped off a little bit, but y'all have brought me back.
Yes. You guys were so nice to each other.
Yeah, you guys are nice to each other. Is it like trauma bonding because of COVID, or why are you guys so nice now?
It's so much of that. Yeah, that's actually really funny. A lot of the past contestants that were judges for the season were like, y'all are so close. Like, we haven't seen this before. And like, we're obsessed with each other. We love each other so much. So I'm glad it brought you back.
Yeah,
it's heartwarming.
It is heartwarming. It's good. We had a lot of San Diego contestants for a while, and so we were really locked in back in those days. Brian and Chad and those guys.
Yeah. Well, Sasha, if you just want to get started and kind of tell us like your background, how'd you get into food and chefing and all that stuff? What led you here?
Cool. So you know how like your true calling's always in you. Since I was 5 years old, I was watching the Food Network and watching Emerald and like dreaming of sitting at that countertop, literally like all the time. My mom loves this story. I was 5 years old and I was watching Emerald on Thanksgiving, and I ran downstairs to make sure she was cooking the turkey correctly at like 6 a.m. So, went through my life and went through college and never really saw cooking as a career. But I moved home and I was coaching field hockey and living with my dad, and I was cooking nonstop. Like, my dad would go buy everything and I'd just cook it. And his favorite statement was always, "This is restaurant quality." And I was like, that's
such
adorable.
A dad line.
Yeah.
Such a dad line.
This is great. You should sell this.
Yeah. So I appreciate that support because it led me in the direction of going to culinary school. And coming from an Italian background in my family, I found a program that took me to Italy. So I did culinary school in New York, and then it took me to Italy for 6 months. So that was I was in it to win it at that point. I fell in love. Everything was magical. It came naturally to me, which was something that was like really beautiful to like, go to a 4-year college and be like, what am I going to do with my life? Nothing to do with that. And followed my passion and what I was really, really just naturally gravitating towards. And then career took off, moved to San Francisco, then LA, Austin, and now I'm in Houston.
Awesome. So you're in Houston, and how did you come up with the idea? Like, how did Sashas focaccia come up, like as a concept of all the things you could make and bake? Kind of tell us, besides the fact that it rhymes, so it's perfect.
Well, I mean, that makes it pretty obvious. But you were in some really high-end restaurants, right? Where'd you cook in San Francisco?
In San Francisco, I started at Delfina.
Yeah, which is a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, Delfina's an institution. Like that's where I cut my teeth. And, I still reflect on those moments on the line all the time. And then I opened up Hardwater, which was a Charles Fan restaurant. Then I moved to Coxcomb with Chris Cosentino, Aziza with Murad Lalou, and then Ache with the Flour and Water Group. And, I was basically working out there for 7 years and just grinding. And, you miss birthdays, you miss babies being born, you miss weddings and all of that stuff. So I decided to move closer to home to LA, and I was doing my own pop-ups and my own dinners. And then Bruce Kalman of Union in Pasadena was like, hey, why don't you come by for like a little interview? And then a week later, I was a sous chef. 2 months later, I was a CDC, chef de cuisine. And then it just kept rolling from there.
Yeah. Wow. So you've done some big stuff, but you chose to concentrate on the bread. Tell us why.
Yes.
So, yeah, I've done everything from fine dining to all different types of cuisines, but something about baking is so therapeutic for me. It's just that repetitive motion. You get really in touch with your product and what you're making, your methods, your procedures. And I really worked on this recipe during the summer of 2020. And then I went to Top Chef and, I took that recipe with me, never used it because it's a 24-hour process. When would I ever have used that? But
just in case.
Yeah. The 3-day challenge. And then I came home and I just started baking again because, Top Chef was hard and I needed that therapy again and get my hands dirty. And I started giving it away to friends and they kept saying, this is good. Are you sure you just want to give this away for free? I think you should start selling it. And then I started selling it and the response was magical. And, it just kind of blew up and got bigger than I ever expected. And it's still growing. And I really love it.
That's amazing great. When you can, when your passion can be profitable.
Yes.
That's what we like to talk about here.
That's our thing.
Yeah. So you're giving away this bread. People are loving it. We're always curious because we're farmers market folk. Why you chose to start Sasha's Focaccia at the market, especially since, now your name is out there, you got that red hair, you're recognizable, people know your face. So why'd you choose the farmers market to launch this brand?
I have always loved farmers markets. That's always been such a passion of mine ever since, even being a line cook in San Francisco. I was the one that was raise my hand. I will go to the market early. I will work 25 hours today and I will haul everything back. And there's just something about the community of a farmer's market where you get to know the vendors, the actual growers, the people that are picking the mulberries off of the bushes, you get that direct contact with somebody and then you build the relationship. They start growing things that you like and you want. And it's just a way to be so connected to your product that I've always loved it so much. And talking to your guests is something that I really missed from, being furloughed and COVID and the whole thing. And that's something I thrive on. I thrive on guests being happy and having an amazing experience at the restaurant. And I didn't have that. And so moving to a farmer's market and, everybody's getting vaccinated, so it feels safe. And it was kind of a no-brainer to get back into that because I missed it so much. And it gave me that direct contact with the guests, the people eating your food again. So for me, it was, an easy decision to get back into the markets.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And we always talk about how launching your business at the farmer's market is so helpful because you get that direct feedback from people. Yes. And, you sell them a loaf of bread one week and the next week they come back and they're like, oh, that was so good. But maybe it needs more salt or whatever, and obviously you're like, okay, cool. Well, you're not a baker, but, but you can get that feedback directly.
All feedback.
Yeah. So you started at the farmer's market. Are you just in one market a week right now?
So I'm at Rice Village Farmers Market and I'm at Heights Mercantile Farmers Market. So they switch weekends. So every Sunday I'm at a market in Houston.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So what's your big picture goal for Sashas? Are you going to, continue doing more markets, or like what's your dream goal for this brand?
Yes, I have, for the first time in my life, I have a 5-year and 10-year plan.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Very exciting.
I have like a 5-minute plan.
It's so wild to think of that, but I've been cooking for about 10 years now professionally, and I've never had a 5-year plan. I've never had a 10-year plan, never had a 1-year plan, because my nose was to the ground, grinding it out and making it happen. And I finally have a chance to like step back and look at what I want. And I'm happier than I've ever been. And I want to keep this up. So my 5-year plan is, 2-year plan is to like get into Houston markets and supermarkets like Central Market, HEB, get me in Kroger, like get Sasha's Focaccia into those avenues. And then 5-year plan, all of Texas, 10-year plan, let's go national. Those are my deadlines. Hopefully things, speed up a little bit, but I've learned a lot about patience and a lot about doing things right and doing things correctly. And I want to make sure I have the right partners. I have the framework. I set up, I'm going to need a team. I set the team up for success. That is something where I haven't had that luxury of time, and I finally do. And I am going to use it. I'm going to make sure that I'm setting things up correctly, but also that I maintain my life. My personal life, my private life, my friendships, my relationships, like that's also part of the game. And I'm no longer willing to sacrifice that. And doing things like farmers markets and having this plan allows me to maintain that consistency in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. It seems like farmers markets are maybe a little bit more conducive to social life. Restaurants, you're literally working when everybody else is having fun. But farmers market, you could work on a Sunday morning and then you're free in the afternoon, or you could take a nap and then go get dinner. You're not totally
exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we tell people that at farmers markets that it's okay to, and it sounds like you've got an amazing long-term plan, but it's also okay to just stay at lifestyle size. That, maybe your business is in several farmers markets and it's not on grocery store shelves, and you're not negotiating with buyers. You're talking to the people that are eating your food, which can be a nice thing. I was actually in the restaurant business myself long before I was at farmers markets. And part of the reason I so relate to what you're saying, because part of the reason I got back into markets was I never wanted to own a restaurant again. But I really missed knowing that whole relationship you have with regular customers and talking to the people that you're feeding. That's really exciting. For me, farmers markets felt like, I could do this one day a week instead of being available to the restaurant 24/7. Of course, I ended up with multiple markets. It gets away from you. Just a heads up, a little warning there. But have you found that with the market that you get kind of the best of the restaurant business without that big, enormous commitment where you're never really off?
Yeah. Correct. Exactly. I get to make my own hours, my own decisions. I'm not answering to anybody. And it's just allowed so much freedom. And I'm able, we don't talk about money often, but like I'm able to make enough money in my Sunday markets to like cover my monthly expenses. It's something where I also like pepper in cooking classes and private dinners and virtual classes and, supplement my income that way. But I'm in control of that. And I can take 2 days off a week and not touch my computer or make a phone call. And I feel okay doing that. Where before it was 24/7, I'm available for the restaurant. And that's difficult. That's hard to maintain and sustain. So we talk about sustainability in food. We also need to talk about sustainability in us as chefs and people at markets and makers and growers. Like we also have to be smart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I think that's been a little bit of a silver lining from the whole 2020
Yeah.
thing is we all were forced to slow down a little bit and back up. And I think a lot of us are feeling like, well, maybe I don't want to go back to that grind.
We kind of found like what your passion is, I think. Like you
Yeah.
were drawn to like cooking and baking your
Yeah.
own thing and being in charge of your own thing. It's like that reflection maybe would have not happened if you weren't forced to like be a little bit locked down during 2020. So we all kind of saw where our priorities are
Yeah.
lying. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about like your pricing before we move
Sure.
on
Yeah.
and talk more market stuff. But, talking about like making your brand national and getting into grocery stores, there is generally a price discrepancy between how much you can charge for something at a farmer's market and how much you can charge for something at a grocery store. And like, how is that working into your long-term plan in terms of like, right now you're supporting yourself at the market. And then eventually if you're in grocery stores, you're going to have a whole team. You're going to have, probably a commercial kitchen that you're operating out of, or like a factory, So how are you kind of factoring in the price and everything like that?
Sure. I think my prices right now reflect that I am hand making this for you personally. Every single time you eat this focaccia, it's been made by these hands. It's my time. It's directly my attention. That's the same thing for private dinner parties as well. Like those prices reflect my full 100% attention. If and when I move into that giant production and that scaling, those prices I left room for adjustments. So there is ability to bring that price down with wholesale orders. If I can rely on consistency of ordering product, I'm willing to work with people. But, I obviously haven't gotten there yet, but I did make my prices in a way that if somebody wants to work with me and set something up, we can work together. We can negotiate.
Which is really smart. I mean, because a lot of food makers go in and they're not thinking about the fact that they get excited when a forager from a big grocery store comes and talks to them, and not really thinking through the idea that they're going to need to sell at a much lower wholesale price. And
Correct.
Are they willing to make adjustments to their ingredient quality, or have they figured out a way to scale it and still get themselves paid and the other people that are working on it paid? And it's interesting to talk to you because you said you were a chef that went to farmers markets.
Yeah.
So were you trying to make deals with the vendors at farmers markets? And now that you're on the other side of the tent and you're talking to chefs that might be coming to you, how's that changed your perspective?
To be honest, I never negotiated with farmers at the markets.
We love you.
Yeah.
We love you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Please shout it out.
Yeah, that was
Tell
never
your
a
friends.
thing.
Tell your friends.
Yeah. That was never something that crossed my mind because once again, you're paying for the quality, you're paying for the craftsmanship, you're paying for their time. And this is how they make a living. It's difficult for me to want to negotiate that when I know how hard it is to do and to make happen, especially after going through farmers market setup and breakdowns and like production. I'm like, y'all deserve all the money that and don't ever change your prices for anybody. And if, I've had one person walk up and they said, wow, that's expensive, and walk away. That was one person out of hundreds. It is what it is. People
Not
are
your ideal customer.
and it is what it is. You're going to have the people that are going to walk away, that are going to try to negotiate, and it's not going to work out. And okay, we're moving on.
Yeah.
But if you are selling your product from a farmer's market booth to a chef,
Yes.
how can the chefs afford to pay retail and then still have room to mark it up in their restaurants? We're trying to figure out how to make this whole thing work for vendors, but also for chefs so that we can bring those folks to the market to shop.
I think offering those wholesale prices for certain quantities is where I would go. If a chef's trying to buy 10 slabs of focaccia, like that would be something where I'd be interested in discussing a lower price point, especially if it was consistent. So if that was a consistent order, if things were flying off the shelves and working and, we could establish that trust in a relationship, then I'm willing to talk about it. There's always room for a conversation and a discussion. Honestly, nobody's done that yet. So
It's coming.
But I think it'd be so smart for a restaurant to have Sasha's Focaccia on their menu, and it's a little cross marketing there.
Yeah.
They can get a little Top Chef love.
I'm in discussions with a few like concepts that want to carry certain products of mine. So things are happening.
That's great.
Trying to take it at my pace.
That's what's kind of nice about being at the farmers market too, is that people can come and talk to you, and it's more like can start off with these casual conversations about getting into restaurants or doing big orders or doing specialty orders or something. That's kind of always what our vendors have said at the farmers market. That's one of the big bonuses of being at a market. They don't have to like track you down through your website. They can just come out to the market and talk to you. So,
correct. Yeah. And that's what so many people are doing right now, which is obviously being on Top Chef and stuff that draws people in. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah, so smart to keep that rolling. Are you doing your own social media and things, or do you have somebody that's doing all that?
So for my personal account, I do my own social media. And then for my business account, I do have somebody helping me.
Cool, that's helpful.
Yeah. That is helpful. With us, it's Justine. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
I'm so helpful.
I mean, people are like, wow, I'm so overwhelmed with all this stuff. And that was one of the first things I did. I was like, I need somebody to help me with my Square, my website, and my other account, because if I'm over here being creative with 3 other events a week, other than the farmers market, I have to focus on that and executing those well. When the little things of, I need to update my photos on my website or set up posts and, stories for the other account. Those are things where I'm in this very big transition of like release and let go and trust that somebody else is going to perform well, because I can't do it all myself. And that was my mentality in restaurants for so long. If you do it incorrectly, I'll just do it myself. And so now I'm like, fly free, enjoy yourself, have fun with it. And I trust. And I find that people are performing better and better with that mindset.
That's so smart, because a lot of times it goes the other direction. You're willing to delegate in a business that's not your own. And then you get to that point where you're an entrepreneur and it's all yours, and you're going to make sure that everything's done your way and not let loose and give anybody else any control or responsibility or scary or still authority over your stuff. So how's the transition been from, you've worked in some really big places. How's that move been from employee, even though you were a chef that was in charge, and so you had a lot of authority? Still, what's the move like from answering to somebody else and answering to you and your own self and having to discipline yourself?
Sure. Transformative, life-changing, freeing. I feel like a new person. It's sure, having that place where you like clock in, clock out, and you're like, oh, I walk out of here, I'm off the clock, I'm no longer answering to anybody. Like that black and white mentality is something that I did for a long time, 10 years. But this new self-discipline and, making sure I'm being productive and following up with things. Like I'm going to miss stuff. I'm one person. I don't have a personal assistant. Like I'm managing this all by myself, but there's some sort of freedom in it that I'm just not willing to give up. And honestly, I'm meeting people now and seeing them again after a year of not seeing them. And they're like, you are happier than I've ever seen you. And it's true. It's 1,000% true. I make my own schedule. I say yes to things that I want to do, and I don't have to say yes to things that I don't want to do. It's like, it's so crazy to like say that out loud. And I'm sure people listening are going to be like, well, you can always just do whatever you want to do. It's like, well, when you're the executive chef of a company, or a restaurant, there are things that you have to do that you don't want to do. And it's last minute things. And, for us, we make magic happen. That's why we got put in these positions, is because we get it done, but at what cost? So now I am here in this position of managing myself and I'm learning what keeps me on track, what distracts me. I'm compartmentalizing my days. You know, I have my 2 hours in the morning where I have my morning routine. I hang out with my dog. I listen to a podcast. I do a workout, and then I start my day. And, you know, after 8 o'clock, I'm done. So it's being able to control this has been like really powerful in building up my confidence and my belief in myself that I can really do anything I set my mind to.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've really embraced entrepreneurship. I think, I won't say people are born with that ability or not. I guess it's something that can be taught, but I think some people thrive in a more controlled situation where somebody else is, you know, taking the big responsibility hits. And then there's other people that just can't imagine, you know, there's people like me that are basically unemployable because I'm just used to.
Can't have a boss.
Yeah, doesn't work that
and
well.
The farmer's market is this like really interesting kind of like, there is not really like a central like source of power. Like, you know, like in restaurants, it's very hierarchical. Like there's the person at the top and like delegating down, and then there's like the dishwasher, you know, it like kind of goes in this like hierarchy. But the farmer's market, there is the market manager, but then like the market manager needs the vendors.
Yeah.
And the vendors need the farm, that, you know, it is this very kind of like everybody is in charge of themselves, and then they all have to work together. And like
each other.
Also like if you don't totally just want to check out and like not be in your booth, like it's only impacting you kind of, you know, it's going to impact your sales, and no one's really going to, you know, the market manager be like, hey, like get back in your booth. But at the end of the day, you're in charge of yourself. And so it is kind of this like nebulous, everybody's working together and free flowing. I'm sure it's kind of like, in a way, like getting out of the military, and now all of a sudden you're a civilian working at the market. Just really different.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very, very different. But there's also that bond that everybody has at the market. And I missed this past market. I was in Richmond, Virginia, doing a dinner with a few other people from Top Chef. And, you know, I got messages from some of the vendors being like, oh, we missed you. Or like the market manager, like, we missed you this weekend. And it's like, cute. Like, this is nice. Like a place where like I make money, like people are just being so respectful and sweet and checking in already. I've only been there for a month. And it's just like the family part of restaurants that I miss so much. I'm getting that like little dose of family every Sunday.
So much. Yeah, so much. You'll find, I mean, that builds between vendors regard each other as family, managers and vendors have the same feeling. And as you're there for a while, I think you'll find what's interesting to us is how much customers regard the vendors as part of their family. And we see, you know, vendors and customers inviting each other to each other's weddings and, you know, cheering for the kid that's in Little League and being upset if somebody's ill. So, yeah, you really do develop that community that's kind of like no other. It's really funny.
Yeah. It feels like a restaurant family to me.
It does.
Just growing up in restaurants and being in restaurants for a long time and then transitioning to the farmer's market, for me, it still felt like your regular customers, and then the vendors to me are just like the other kind of staff at the restaurant, you know, so you have that kind of familiar relationship with them, and you're all kind of doing the grind together in the morning before the shoppers come, you know, and you're all there with your headlamps on, and you're like, hey, good morning, you know. And it just feels like that restaurant thing, like when you're getting the restaurant ready to open, or like at closing time when we're all just exhausted, but we're like exhausted together, you know, but at least we're not leaving at 4 a.m.
Yeah, it seems a little less debaucherous.
Yes. Not as much as the restaurant after party was for me in my restaurant days anyways, but it's a little more pure and, you know.
Family centric, wholesome.
Yeah. It's daylight outside, so can only do so much.
Right?
So are there any secrets from Top Chef that you can divulge?
Oh my God, secret.
Oh, let's call it an insights. Are there any insights?
Is Padma that beautiful in person? And so she's just like glowing and like hovering.
She has this regal quality to her where you're like, I don't even know how you're real.
Floating along on a cloud.
I know on the show, they used part of my interview about me talking about her hair. And I was like, oh my God, guys, come on. Don't do this to me. But Gail is gorgeous in person. I mean, Tom is great. Like, everybody's just, I think this season was really powerful because obviously it was the most diverse cast that they've had on the show ever.
And the challengers were really diverse too.
Yes. The cast, the judges, like they really, really did a good job of like reaching outwards and not just having us Italian people and like some Hispanic influence or something, we're really reaching at food that I've never had before. I've never tried before. I'm learning so much all the time. I learned a ton, and yeah, Top Chef filming's crazy.
Cool. So what do you think? Is there a potential for a top vendor show?
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
Can you imagine? Yeah, we've actually had people over the years a couple of times, because we've got a really big market, approach us about doing some kind of a reality show thing around the farmers market. Yeah. But I will say, having been associated with some chefs that were on Top Chef, there is a tendency to kind of gear up the drama, and I've never been sure that sounds like fun to me.
We don't need to gear up the
drama. We have enough drama.
Yeah,
it's not rev it up.
They definitely try, and you're like, not answering that question.
Oh, good job.
That question. And I'm sure like at some point they're going to be like, producer asked this question. Sasha says, will not answer.
I'm not going to cry.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not going to cry.
Oh my God. How many times you're like, I told myself I wasn't going to cry. You guys are savages and very good at your job.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm thinking top vendor has potential, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people can get competitive at the market.
For sure.
For sure.
We've seen it.
Especially with something like baking.
Those eyes were knowing eyes.
Yes.
And farmers.
Yeah.
Beekeepers.
Yeah.
Can we talk about competitive?
Oh my God, beekeepers, they're everywhere.
Cutthroat.
The rivalries. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great having you today. Do you think you're going to do, so as a kind of a bridge between markets and getting on those grocery shelves, have you thought about online or any of those kind of middle things?
So the shipping element is really interesting because there's a huge request for me to start shipping. I just need to get more educated on the rules and the process and how I'm going to do it, and setting up with, a mail delivery system, and not spend, I charge a pretty nice price right now, but if I add on shipping to that, who's paying like $70 for a loaf of focaccia?
Right.
Like, I'm sure my family would, but like, how many loaves of focaccia can you order per week? So I do need to figure that out. And that's something where I would love to have a conversation with somebody out there that does that and has some insight on how to get started from the ground up, because there is no beginner's guide to this, and there should be. And that's something that I would really love to work on as well, is like a beginner's guide to starting a business, beginner's guide to getting into farmers markets, to shipping, to scaling.
Well, we've got the farmers market side covered. Yeah. We actually have a whole thing about that. Yeah. Right.
Just gathering all that information is in one cohesive place would be just so monumental for people in my position that are just starting out. So definitely something where there's a lot of legwork to do right now.
For sure.
Yeah, especially a product that's not like shelf stable, like a fresh baked item is different than like Justine would, ship the baby Clydesdale hot sauce, so that would like last a little longer in the jar. So just the differences of shipping out kind of fresh items. But
I mean, that's probably the whole trick, right? Is that one of the things that makes it taste so good is it's not full of preservatives, and it's not, it's not designed for durability. It's designed for flavor. And I mean, that's kind of the difference in produce at the farmer's market. The tomatoes at the market aren't grown to easily fit in a box. They're not consistently sized. They don't hold up in the bin in the grocery store, but they taste so much better. And I can imagine the focaccia is the same way. You're developing your product geared to taste, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to shipping and durability.
Yeah. So finding that kind of middle ground.
Looking into par baking and freezing and, it actually comes out better after being frozen, which is like
interesting.
Wild to me. Yeah. But I'm in the middle of that testing process. So, trying to figure out how to get that freshly baked bread in your house all over the country.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
All the way
working
in
on
California.
that product development.
Yeah,
What's
start
that?
with California.
Start in California.
Oh my God. My whole family's in California. They're basically like, so when are you shipping it? So like, when is it happening? I'm like, everybody relax, everybody calm down.
Remind me to gang together with her family and let's just get a big box.
Yeah.
We'll share the
Pallet.
shipping. It'll be
Yeah.
There you
fine.
go. A pallet of focaccia.
Right? And have a really big party.
We'll go through it.
Yes.
How'd you end up in Texas if your family's in California?
So I followed my little heart to Austin and didn't work out, but brought me to Texas and I love it here.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing. Yeah. Just signed my lease for another, 16 months. So I'm here.
Great.
Oh,
Yeah.
far out.
We just kind of just went to Austin.
Austin
like
is so cool.
2 years ago, a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
and I had
Yeah.
never been, and it was so fun, and it was so great, and I really enjoyed it.
Super
So
fun. The
yeah.
people out here are like magical,
Yeah.
amazing people.
awesome. They
Cool.
appreciate good food, clearly.
That's right. Well, we'll be back down there and
Yeah.
we'll go check you out at the farmer's market.
Yeah, I've never been to
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah. Let's all go. We're gonna take a little road show once traveling is a little safer.
Yeah.
but we're gonna go visit.
Put
some
our market
farmers markets,
conference,
so.
do those little mini conferences on the road.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah.
Get our focaccia. Well, it was really great to talk to you, Sasha. We're so excited to see, what you've started and what you're doing. And definitely keep in touch. And yeah, congratulations on getting started and upping that quality of life by being in control of your own time. It's such a big transition, and we're so excited for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're rooting for you.
Yeah.
We
Thank
we
you.
expect to see you as top vendor in the near future.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, now that you
For
have the
Awesome.
reality show in,
Yes.
we'll use
exactly.
you to pitch our show
There we
to
go.
Bravo.
There we go. Absolutely.
Let's go, Bravo.
Yeah.
That's right.
Get on it.
Get on it.
All right. Well, we'll
All right.
talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to Food Business Success for helping food makers focus not on what they have to do, but what they love to do, and for supporting Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. Connect with Sari and her team by clicking the Food Business Success logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Farmers markets are all about community, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're just getting started in farmers markets, check out our Vendor 101 online course at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcast, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. If you are listening on YouTube, give us that thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will have another great episode next week, so tune in.